Hi guys, Dr. Lester here, and today again we're going to continue talking about some of the different modalities that we use and the different techniques and whatnot. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about instrument assisted adjusting and pelvic drops. So these techniques, there are a couple of different types of techniques that use the instrument. This one specifically is called an activator. I use this one fairly often because it can be really good. It can be very, very specific, and sometimes we just want to give it a different type of nudge, different type of feel. I can be very specific, and we can do it with my hands or whatnot. But sometimes it's just a different input, and sometimes your body just needs something different than just the traditional hand stuff. So. I like using this tool specifically. As you can see, it's just this little, it's got a little handle. You hold it like that, and it ends up making this kind of noise. So as you can see, it moves my hand a little bit. I can adjust the tension of it, and this is going to change how much it moves my hand. As you can see, that doesn't move it quite as much. And then we can go all the way down right here, and it doesn't really move it at all. So we can change that variety to one that is more intense for, like, let's say where it has to go through more tissue, like maybe like in your low back or whatnot, versus somewhere like maybe at the base of your skull where we just want just a little bit of input, and we can change that. It does make kind of a loud clicking noise, but it's pretty gentle. And it actually, what I really like to use it for also, is not just for the bones, because sometimes, obviously, that's a really good way to adjust that. But sometimes I really like to use it on tight muscles too, because it just feels really relaxing a lot of the time. So it is a great tool. It is a great tool that you can use for really anybody. A lot of the times people will use this as a gentler technique because it doesn't provide some of that turning motion or any of those other things, which sometimes are, not called for. So this is great for the elderly. It is great for babies. It is great for animals if you can get them past that noise. But it's just a really pretty gentle technique, which is nice. There are other tools that you can use, and there are other techniques that use specific tools. This one is not, it's technically called just instrument assisted because activator is an actual technique and they have their own brand of tool. But I am technically acupuncture activator certified, and I just don't have an activator because they're kind of pricey. But the technique is very, very cool. And then there are other techniques that utilize that as well, and those, like, for example, torque release technique. It has a slightly more intense one, but it releases better and a little bit differently. And so there's just a whole variety of different handheld devices that do this. There's some that are battery operated, and that there's just a whole variety. Anyways, so that's the one I use here at ISC. And then as far as the pelvic drops are something that always kind of surprise people because they're very loud, but they're actually very gentle on your system. So the reason we use a pelvic drop, and I guess I should explain a pelvic drop, the table that you're going to lie on, it has these parts of the table, specifically underneath your pelvis, but it has them multiple places where the table pops up a little bit. If you're lying flat on the table, it goes like this, right? So it pops up just a little bit, and the reason for that is so when I give you an adjustment where I push down into you, it gives this extra room. So instead of just like when I'm pushing where we're just stopping at the table, it's not going anywhere. Now, because it's tilted, if I push down, it goes a little bit further. It gives a little bit more motion into that. So the adjustment goes further. But it's actually more relaxing because it's not me fighting and pushing you against a wall, or against the table. It is me giving you extra bounce because we created extra room, if that makes sense. So it actually ends up being very relaxing and very gentle, despite its very loud noises. Pelvic drops are really, really good for, or really any drops, are really, really good for providing a gentle release into the system, especially if you're not going to do something that requires torque. So when I say that, I mean like a lot of times we'll adjust the low back in side posture, and that's the one where you're lying on your side and you're kind of twisted up like a pretzel, and then they twist you and it pops your low back. That's side posture. Sometimes the system calls for that kind of torque, but not all of the time. And I find fairly often, for me anyways, the patients that I see, that they don't require that kind of torque. So I end up using drops to help adjust them, because it doesn't bring that torque into the system, and I can do it while you're lying flat on your belly and just go straight down with gravity in the natural anatomical position. And the body tends to respond pretty well to that. So I like it because it is a gentle technique that allows me some versatility into what kind of torque or force I am putting into the system, which is important. And you can do drops for all sorts of things. You can do drops for pelvis. You can do drops for your thoracics, this whole mid area. You can also do it for your neck, and then you can also do it for extremities. You will also see what's called a speeder board. It's just this little board. It's like a mini drop, and it just kind of does this pop like that too, but I use it for like your arms and your legs and whatnot, because I can kind of just move it and put it underneath you, and it's very gentle, and it actually, like I said, it really makes it so we can be specific and not violent on some of those motions, specifically like with the hands and the feet and whatnot. Those can be a little bit tender because of all the innervation there. We can be a little bit gentler with some of those, and do it in different positions. So like, let's say we're not always just yanking on your fingers or whatever. Maybe we're able to turn it a little bit or whatever it calls for, and get that motion in there without actually being too rough about it. So I hope that clarifies some of those drops. And the instruments, they do make a lot of noise, but they are actually very relaxing and pretty effective. So we do utilize them sometimes, just depending on what your system needs. And that way, when you come in, you won't be worried about all of the noises that you hear. I hope that helps, and I hope you guys have a good one. Can't wait to see ya.